My passion for fermented beverages started when I was 21. I roommated and I in college. Well, let me start. The night I turned 21, my then girlfriend and now wife went to Ralph's, I think it was, and bought like $300 worth of Cures and vodka. The typical like, this is $10 and it's supposed to taste like bananas. Cool. So I got a stomach ache for like 3 months from drinking, and I realized, man, I'd rather drink this 1.5 ounce pour of Maker's Mark than I would any of the garbage that I bought that night. And so I kind of put that together really, really quickly, I think, for a young drinker. And maybe it took longer than most people. I don't know, but whatever. I kind of put it together and I realized, all right, quality is really where my palate goes and what I want. So then I started drinking at a party, say in college. Instead of drinking like 13 Bud Lights, I would drink 1 pint glass of Maker's Mark or Not Creek or something. Yeah, that's really what I did. Anyway, I was going to try and soften that a little bit for my mom when she watches this, but no, that's really what I did. I mean, that's how I realized, like, man, I really like things that taste good and are high in quality, because not only do I enjoy drinking them more, I feel like the effects are a little bit better, and the result the next morning is a little bit less. So anyway, that's kind of what started it. And then it developed into a real passion. I worked at this place called the Grapevine, which I still say to this day was the best bar management gig I ever had. It was the coolest restaurant I think that ever existed. Unfortunately, the kitchen burned down due to some silliness, and it was a tragedy when that restaurant had to close. But my passion for wine started there. We had 52 wines by the glass, and learning each one of those. And then eventually, as my duties increased at the restaurant, the owner, Kate Hagelin, allowed me to help her pick the wines that we would buy. And she was really the buyer. All the vendors knew that they were selling to her, but I got to implement how they were sold and train the rest of the staff. And I got to sell them to all our regulars, and that's really what cut my teeth in the wine industry. After that, bar closed, I really didn't feel like pursuing it that much anymore, but I knew enough about it, so I bounced from kind of job to job to job. I mean, I worked at Red, White, and Blues, and then I worked at Lucky Baldwin's. At Lucky Baldwin's is where my passion for beer started. There's a guy named Denver Bond that used to work there. He now works at Hair of the Dog in Portland, Oregon. Not only were he and I great friends from back when we both worked at the Melting Pot in Pasadena, and this is like in 2002 or 3. 2001, goodness. Anyway, so Denver and I became friends then, but he was working at Lucky Baldwin's right before I was, and he kind of took me under his wing as a little pupil. He had taken the very first round of certified cicerone exams, and so he ended up teaching me all about the physical equipment for beer. So the kegs, the couplers, the beer lines, the connectors, the clamps, all that. And I'm such a tactile, kinetic learner that I just fell in love with the whole idea of this pressurized system that you have to keep in balance and pump this beer out. So I got kind of into beer from the internal distribution inside a restaurant and the technology of it. What makes the beer move from the keg to the tap faucet and all this. And so then I was like, all right, over the 2.5 years that I worked there, I fell in love with trying all the different beers, learning the styles, really knowing how to sell it. And that's something that I am professionally is a salesperson. I really like to understand my product and get people lined up with not something that's going to make me the most money, but something that's going to make my guests the happiest. And that's part of my philosophy here at Kings Row too. I want my staff to be able to say, well, that depends, because everybody's palate's different. What do you typically enjoy? And when somebody tells me they typically enjoy Bud Light or any of the crappy light beers or whatever they might say, that's my opportunity to not only really show them what a gastropub can be, but also, I can flex my knowledge a little bit and be like, oh cool, the birthplace of the Czech Pilsner, blah, 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 blah. I can go and give them as much information as they want, all the while giving them something that is not only a quality product, but that they're going to love. And I know they're going to love it because of my training. So that's kind of where my passion for that kind of service came from, was in learning all those beers at Lucky Baldwin's. And then from there, I bounced around a lot. I started working as a consultant part-time. So I would pick up consulting gigs, restaurant consulting gigs, and go in like, originally it was just to write people's beer lists and wine lists, and then it turned into like full-on fiscal consulting later, and really ironing out processes in bars and letting owners understand what a dollar coming in means to their pocketbook. So yeah, I would say that that's kind of the two pinnacle moments is at the Grapevine, learning about wine, and at Lucky Baldwin's, learning about beer. And then realizing I could help other people build lists that were automatically more friendly for the market that they're in. Lucky Baldwin's doesn't have the food. Let's be honest, they just don't have the food that it requires to be called a gastropub. But they definitely have the beer and the commitment to quality and the staff. So they have two of the three things that you would need. But Pop Champagne Bar has all of those three just without the name. They have the quality food, a phenomenal chef in Chef Ray Vasquez, who is just awesome. I mean, if you've ever been there and had his desserts, think about that guy. Not only makes those desserts, but he also makes all of the savory food. And in a chef, that's super rare. Someone that can do the two, it's super rare, and it takes a lot of talent. So anyway, I can't say enough good things about him and the quality of their food over there, particularly with the setup in their kitchen that they have. It's a very difficult kitchen to produce out of, and they do a great job of it. So they have the food. They have the beverages. Their commitment to serving stellar champagnes by the glass and sparkling wines in general is only rivaled by their commitment to serving great beers. If any beer lover has not been there and looked at their bottled beer list and their tap list, they only have 4 taps, but they use them really well. They're committed to it. Their buyer, his name is Nathaniel Tyson, and Nathaniel has this palate that is it's enviable. It's infinitely flexible. He can buy things that he doesn't like because he knows they're going to sell well. And in my opinion, that's the hardest thing that I've had to learn as a buyer, is how to buy things that you don't like. And it took me years to learn that. As soon as he became a buyer, learned it immediately, which is incredible. So yeah, their commitment to craft and very high quality beverages is also very hard to rival. And then they have the community. When I worked there was this lady, Margaret, who lives in Castle Green. I saw her every day I think I ever worked there. And it's not only her. You know, we saw all kinds of different folks coming in that live in the community. And now it's the most popular place for what we call the Virgins. It's all the Virgin Airlines puts up all their pilots and stewardesses and all that in Pasadena here. And that's kind of, if you go in there, you almost always hear British accents and people hanging out from on flights from London back and forth. We get a fair amount of them here at Kings Row too, but they get even more.